Hi, everybody. How you doing? It's Jamie here, and we have another Soul to Sisterhood interview with one of our 38 featured goddesses in our 36 stories. We have Shelby. I am so excited to get to talk to Shelby today because we were just talking before I hit record, and so much of the medicine that comes forward in Shelby's story is so pertinent for where we are exactly at this very minute, with everything that's happening for us within the external world that's influencing our internal world, our internal resonance. Shelby brings so much wisdom when it comes to emotional authenticity. And I got to tell you, I met her over some mini horses a few years ago. A mutual friend invited both of our children to join her child at a mini horse camp. And from the second that Shelby walked in my front door to grab my daughter, because we were sharing carpooling responsibilities, it's funny, we talked about it. We just knew that we were connected and had been connected throughout many, many different lifetimes. And I am just so grateful to have her in my life. I'm grateful to have her in my heart. She's one of those friends that you got to have around because she always offers such a beautifully graceful and poetic perspective on everything, just grounding it, but also reminding you to always remain true to your feelings and your authenticity. So without further ado, I want to introduce you to my sister goddess, Shelby. Welcome, Shelb.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm really excited to be here.
Oh, I am so excited to have you here. So Shelb, tell us a little bit about you professionally, personally, anything you kind of want us to know.
Well, I've been a storyteller my whole entire life. So that really put me into the marketing field and the public relations field for many, many years. That kind of took a little bit of a twist when I had not a mental, but a physical health scare where I actually had a pain in my head and I passed out while driving with my daughter in the car. From that day forward, I was having migraine after migraine, and it was really traumatic. And I kept searching for the solution. My doctor had put me on anti-epileptic medications and muscle relaxers, even though he was saying that I had chronic migraine syndrome. And I felt like a zombie. And being a creative storyteller and somebody that feels so deeply, feeling numb just wasn't working for me. So I went and looked and researched my little heart out. And I'm originally from Oregon, so I'm a little bit more granola than a lot of people here in the South. And I discovered what CBD was doing for people with epilepsy. And because of that, I started taking a CBD-based product that was based here locally. And I had amazing results. And because of that, I ended up launching a whole new career path. So for the last several years, I have been helping people understand and debunk some of the hemp-based issues that have come up with reefer madness and things, and help them really find themselves again by going back to more natural-based medicine. I've opened a store, I've launched multiple businesses, and right now I'm actually creating a class for doctors to take so they can bring it into their practices. Because we have a lot of doctors now that were traditionally trained, but they also are seeing that a lot more people are asking for natural medications and natural therapies. So I'm super excited about where my life has led. And if I wouldn't have followed that emotional trigger, I don't think I'd be here today.
Oh, wow. What a beautiful segue for what we're going to talk about, but what an empowering story of knowing that you wanted something different, something natural to address the inexplicable physical events that were going on for you, and finding your way through CBD and then transforming that interest and application into a practical application of the work to professionally share it with people so that you could make that healing transitive. Namaste, sister.
Thank you. Yes, it was definitely an interesting journey. I had multiple family members call me a drug dealer. They just didn't get it. And if I wouldn't have followed my true self and really focused on that, I wouldn't have been able to help people like I have. I even had a little girl that was considered to be a level 2 autistic, nonverbal. And with a product that I developed, she talks now and she interacts with her sisters. And it's been one of the most rewarding experiences to see a child see her world even more clearly.
Oh, that is awesome. Well, as a kiddo, you had kind of a crazy nickname that you talk about in your story. Are you cool talking about that?
Yeah, we can talk about that. I mean, everybody's got weird nicknames. The one that really still hits me, and it's something I'd really have to process as an adult, was I used to be called Nelly Drama. because I felt so deeply and I had such big emotions. You know, my birth father left when I was really small, and we were pretty attached. And unfortunately, that really was a hard place for me to be because I didn't have a safe place to share those emotions and really talk about that. My heritage isn't so much about let's talk about our feelings. It's suck it up, buttercup, and keep moving forward, pull yourself up by your bootstraps. And where there's a time and a place for that, not all children understand that.
Boy, that's the truth. And in your story, you talk about how understanding today from your adult sensibilities, stepping into that emotional authenticity, you've really up-leveled all aspects of your life, your partnering, your parenting, your professional life. Can you talk more about how that's really kind of cross-pollinated all your different worlds?
Wow, that's a really good question. I think really what's come down to is just listening to that inner self. You know, when you don't understand your emotions, if you really sit with them, I'm a big journaler. I love to write poetry more for myself than anybody else because sometimes we still don't understand. You know, I'm in my late 30s at this point and there's still emotions that are new and different. And if we don't have the time to sit down and really experience them, we don't know how to move forward. And with that, it's really helped me as a parent understand that I need to provide a safe place for my kids to have those emotions. I'm not a parent that's quick to coddle, so to speak, but I am quick to hug and I'm quick to love, but I'm also willing to let them have that emotion and then give them the opportunity to reflect on it with me and what tools we can use to make that a little bit easier if that emotion comes back up. I think professionally, the biggest thing is that I see people for who they are and what they are, and I'm not quick to put labels on anybody. And then, I mean, in my marriage, we come from very different backgrounds, my husband and I. He was raised Catholic, and I was not really raised in the church, but I did find the church, Christian church, in my teens, and that was a whole different experience. But I guess what I'm trying to say is that it's allowed me to not be okay when things are not okay, but then I also have a time to dance and to really love when things are great.
Wow, that's a really beautiful piece to just share, letting ourselves not be okay when it's not okay, and then loving the times when it is okay. How much does your faith, and I don't mean faith in terms of religious faith, but just your faith in yourself, how much does it play in to this process of knowing that things are always going to kind of be on that spectrum of hills and valleys?
I think it really comes down to one of my mentors, a friend's father that I had. He's passed away this last few years, but his big thing, you know, my mom came out, was to love her anyway, and to love her through it, and love her in any way. And that was something that I've really taken in for my own self too, because we're so quick to judge. You know, right now with what we're dealing with, I think one of my daily triggers that I have to be conscious about is productivity. And the fact that I feel like my worth as an entrepreneur is only as good as what I accomplished that day. But then honoring myself and my emotions of like, today is not such a great day. You know, I've been doing homeschooling with the children and trying to figure out, you know, how we keep this place clean. I swear I'm washing dishes every 20 minutes. But understanding that maybe I should just love myself anyway and love myself through it, which isn't always easy. You know, I'd love to be 15 pounds lighter and I'd love to all sorts of things, but loving what I am right now is going to get me where I'm supposed to go. And I think that's really what a lot of it comes down to for me.
That's powerful. Thinking about faith being based in self-love.
It really is, I think, at this point for me.
Right, right. You talk about in your story that there were many times in your life where you felt like you were in, you know, caterpillar soup is what you say. And you say that the caterpillar goes into the cocoon and somehow in that big hot soupy mess emerges this glorious, gorgeous butterfly. Can you talk about how different times in your life you've been able to just T the P, trust the process from caterpillar soup to butterfly?
Well, we moved to Florida about 14 years ago. And the 2 years before that, I had gone to college. It was my senior year, and I kept feeling horribly sick. And retrospectively, I got to the point where the doctors were like, you're going to be in bed always. We can't figure out what's wrong with you. We don't have any more medications to give you. And what I didn't realize until I just jumped and decided to take an adventure, because what my life wasn't working. And so my husband at the time, we had newly married. It was like, what's the totally thing that can be a total different change? Well, from Oregon, Florida's pretty different. So we moved with 26 boxes, 2 dogs, no job, and he was going to go back to school. Having that blind faith of the soup and knowing that this is what I need to do, and like really listening to that inner tuition, has put us, especially myself, on a different path. And if I hadn't done that, I wouldn't have met you. I mean, within the first 6 months of coming, I was off all the medications. I had lost 60 pounds. And a year and a half later, I got pregnant with my son. And I've had this incredible, wild, crazy experience. And if I wouldn't have just sat in that soup and understood, like, hey, yeah, I'm sick, something's not wrong. Now, retrospectively, I look back and I'm like, okay, well, maybe it's because I wasn't trusting my emotions so much, and it was causing my body to feel sick. And same kind of thing, once, like I was talking about, when I had the headache that turned into significant headaches, it ended up being, I think, that I wasn't listening to my emotions. So now my body and my mind are so connected, and I've seen the pattern enough to where I know, like, okay, if I'm having more physical ailments, it's because I need to stop and I need to listen. And as I listen to my body, I get into that soup mode, and I sit with the stuckness, I sit in the mud, and then eventually I know that I'll come out of it even better. And that's the same thing, professionally. I've evolved recently out of what I was doing and moved into this whole new opportunity with teaching, which is really, really exciting. But when I was walking away from my retail shop and my lab, I was really scared. I wasn't sure what was going to be next, but I have that knowing that what I was doing right then wasn't working anymore. So that soupness, now I can see it before it happens and accept what it is, but always know that you get to the other side, but you got to sit with it.
What does sitting with it look like for you? You'd mentioned journaling. What are some other tools that you can give some of our viewers when they're sitting in the soup?
A good cry. The big thing, I think, for me outside of writing is walking. I'm really good at just walking and walking and walking. And sometimes it's not so much about the thinking part of it. Like, I really love I have a couple podcasts that I really love to listen to and to tap into. And learning something new always seems to tap into a whole nother, oh yeah, aha. Being in the trees or by the trees really makes a big difference for me. And I love to read, even if the reading is an escape. It doesn't have to be self-help, personal empowerment, or any of that. Sometimes it's just a really great novel to not so much numb out, but have that time for the subconscious to sift things through.
Yeah, there's a difference, isn't there?
There really is.
The numbing of distraction versus the relaxation of the conscious mind so that the subconscious mind can process. Two very different things, but yet I feel like we've been led to believe that they are synonymous to a certain extent, I
would agree with that completely. Rest, I think, through this whole COVID process has really been brought to life, and how much more we can have clarity, we can be more productive because we're more intentional about what we're doing and able to think in a heart-centered way. And I think that that's something that I'm the most excited about with where we are. We can listen to that emotional intelligence and be guided by that because we've slowed down enough to listen.
Absolutely. One of your things in your story, and I'm quoting you directly, is emotions are the ultimate currency. And that is one of, it's just something that has stuck with me ever since we did your interview last summer, because really, when we think about currency, we think about exchange, we think about goods and trades, buying and selling, that kind of I would say, paradigm, if you will. But when you shift that and think about emotions being the ultimate currency, wow, it just takes our consciousness into a whole new space. Can you talk about that and share about what that means for you?
Well, from a professional perspective, the reason I've done so well is because I really focus on quality relationships. And having a quality relationship is really understanding the other person's emotional state as well as your own. You know, networking, we go to these big networking events and we hand out our business cards and we smile and, you know, we would hug and be like, oh yeah, you might see me for days at a time. But if you really feel like you're seen and you're heard, that is going to go a whole lot farther along within the ultimate emotional currency. Knowing that there's somebody that you can call or you can text and talk about the great times and the fact that, I mean, I think I even texted you this morning saying, I don't know if today is the day that I want to cry, if I want to hide, or if I want to dance. But having somebody that you can talk to, even a professional setting, to be able to say, I don't know how many more Zoom calls I can handle. I don't know how many more blog posts I can do or how many more social media posts I can handle. Being able to talk about that rough stuff and then being able to call that same person and be like, you're never going to guess what just happened. And sharing that as emotional currency as well. And being able to fill their bucket up on like, man, this just happened. I can't believe it happened. And I'm so excited about it. That lifts them to a point where they can push that forward. It's very similar, I think, to the gift economy. And we're ultimately gifting positive emotions and the negative and being able to hold space for those when you just are a little in debt. You're in the red, so to speak.
I love it that you talk about that level of authenticity and vulnerability, Shel, because, you know, we live in this very interesting time where socially, via social media and other platforms that are social media based and other things as well, you know, we can really create a fairy tale-esque existence. And it becomes this chicken or the egg thing. Are we attaining to live like that, or is that life attaining to live us? And then it can become very crazy trying to make sense of having something that doesn't look social media worthy, like having an experience that doesn't feel meme worthy. Can you talk about what that's like to just trust in yourself, that you're allowed to have this gamut from the really big highs to the really big lows, and you trust that the people that you have so just the word steadfast comes to mind, that you have so steadfastly chosen for your inner sanctum, that you can literally be the vulnerable, authentic you, from cocoon soup to gorgeous butterfly.
Yeah, I think that's something we all struggle with, you know, seeing the people that they have these Instagram lives. I think for me, being the storyteller and not living an authentic story is just hard. It's deep within my bones to not be able to do. And I think a lot of it too is honoring my inner child and accepting and loving her for who she was, because I didn't always feel like she was loved and accepted when I was small. For me, I've also learned as I've gotten older that if my vulnerability intimidates you, you're not my kind of people, and there's some self-work kind of probably need to do on your own self. And that's even hard in itself, because of the fact that when we, at least in my generation, it was very much like being the popular kid is the ultimate thing. And that was very much encouraged in my household. But when I was my authentic self, that's when I had those true friends, the tried and true, whether they're work friends or, you know, soccer friends, or I don't know, even literary friends. Being able to just be me and be seen is so magical. It could be addictive.
It is. It's that beautiful soul to soul connection of, like you said, really being seen and heard for who we really truly are, which is love, right? And love is I was listening to one of my mentors this morning, and she was talking about kind of like what we're talking about, really sitting in the feelings, honoring all the feelings, and knowing that the feelings are of this world. They are not of our true nature, because our true nature is love. So when we give ourselves permission to do that, we're allowed to have, you know, a morning where we wake up and think, I can't get out of bed. And then maybe by dinner time, you're ready to, you know, put on your fancy clothes and go dance a tango. Right? We're allowed to control.
Absolutely, 100%. I think too, is a lot of it just comes down to I totally lost my thought on that. But just really, if you see what I guess I'm trying to say is love is scary and so is self-love. And I think that that's something when you become vulnerable and you get that validation from other people and you build that tribe together, you have the opportunity to make the habit. And as you make the habit, then you can have that emotional currency going forward for other people and being able to pull each other along in this magical journey. But being scared and doing it anyway doesn't always come to the case if you don't have somebody backing you up and pushing you forward or holding your hand along the way.
Right. And it sounds like too, for you, and maybe this isn't what you meant to say, but this is kind of what I heard, the more that you have been clear in creating your tribe, right? Those people that will hold your hand along the way and maybe kick you in the booty a little bit too, the more you're able to do it for others.
100%. That's exactly what I was trying to say. Yeah.
That's
and
awesome.
It feels good being able to do it for others.
Absolutely. Well, that is the intention of our whole project, Soul to Sisterhood, right? We want to hold that mirror up to everybody and say, I see you in all of your glory. And that means all of your glory. Well, honey, thank you so much. Anything else you want to offer as any tidbits of wisdom on emotional authenticity, emotional currency?
Not really. If anybody wants to reach out to me, I'm more than available. I'm pretty much an open book. Hello, storyteller pun there. But I'm just so excited about the project, and I can't wait to see what it grows in our community.
Oh, gosh, me too. Thank you, sweetheart. And thank you so much for trusting me with your story. And thank you for being my friend. I love you.
I love you too.
All right, Mamacita, namaste.
Namaste.